Dear members of our beloved Florida Jewish congregation, Shalom Aleichem. At this sacred and introspective time of the High Holy Days, we are reminded of the profound opportunity for transformation that lies before us. The journey of teshuvah, or repentance, is a deeply personal one, but it is also a collective endeavor. In the warm embrace of the Florida sun, surrounded by the beauty of our community, we may be tempted to focus on the external blessings in our lives, but the essence of teshuvah calls us to look within and to reflect on our actions. Okay, so those words, I hope you figured out right away, were not written by me. They weren't written by anyone. They were written by ChatGPT, the online artificial intelligence program. After I typed in the instruction, write a message about teshuvah for a Jewish congregation in Florida. ChatGPT pulled some ideas from the internet and pieced together a pleasant, if very bland, message that ties the basic themes of Yom Kippur with living in the Sunshine State. So right now, anything written by ChatGPT is going to be at this level: bland, unoriginal, not possessing a real voice. But what about a year from now? 10 years, 50 years? Perhaps AI will have learned to be more specific, right, with more texture, maybe even be able to deliver the message itself from a lifelike robotic rabbi. Who remembers the 1975 movie thriller, The Stepford Wives? It's the right age in the crowd, yes. One thing in the movie that stood out to me was that it was pretty easy to convince the men who moved to Stepford that they should allow their wives to be murdered and then replaced with a robotic version. Even the husbands who came into town possessing what seemed to be a pretty normal conscience were swayed pretty quickly to the idea that having an easily programmable version of their wife and killing the actual wife was ultimately the way to go. The computer wife would not get any older and didn't have super unpleasant traits, such as thinking for themselves or challenging their husband's thoughts or opinions. Because while the human wives didn't think everything out of their husbands' mouths was sheer genius, the robotic versions, on the other hand, thought anything their husbands came up with was pure gold. What's not to like? Sarcasm aside, it is not difficult to see that if and when humanity is given an option to choose interactions with computerized beings who are programmed to be pleasant, non-offensive, helpful, and who are always available, this would be a choice with some appeal. And even better if nobody had to be murdered. I had a discussion with a friend recently. If one lived in a time when you could choose friends who are actually very sophisticated computers, they could learn to respond to you, respond as you wanted them to. They're always available to you. They have endless patience with you. They never get their feelings hurt. They have opinions that you agree with all the time. They share your interests, so on and so on. If and when that time comes, would people even want to have human friends? And why? Actual human beings are difficult. They have bad days. They get their feelings hurt. They can be insensitive or hurtful or fickle. They don't always understand you, and sometimes disapprove of or make fun of your choices. Over time, they may change in ways that you don't like or approve of, or they talk about you behind your back. They are on their own personal journeys that don't necessarily line up with yours. Human-to-human friendships are hard. Any human-to-human relationship is hard. Our world has already been moving toward a reality in which we can choose to interact with computers over people in daily life. We can use the computerized checkout in the supermarket. We can do all of our clothes and housewares shopping online, our banking through our phones or ATM machines. We can watch plays and hear music concerts through screens. And of course, we were all thrust into a futuristic world when COVID-19 caused the world as we know it to shut down. Human-to-human interactions stopped. In-person get-togethers stopped. All interactions happening only through and with screens. And after many months, when the dust finally clears and people can start returning to a real live world of humanity, it's somewhat surprising what happens. A number of people realize that a life without real people has some benefits. Many people find it difficult to have human interactions again. Extroverts become introverts. Socializing seems harder to navigate. People seem harder to navigate. Being polite and civil to others through conflict seems a task almost impossible to tackle. You might think that our early rabbis of 2,000 years ago, the leaders who shaped Judaism as we know it, after the Jerusalem temple was destroyed, they certainly didn't discuss anything relevant to this dilemma, the central question of, if we can interact only with screens and computers and artificial intelligence, why would we possibly deal with messy, imperfect, emotional baggage-carrying human beings? And if you think they did not have this type of discussion, you would be wrong. Because there are a number of discussions among our early rabbis recorded in works such as Midrash about this very thing. They didn't use the word computer to mean a non-human, perfect, non-emotional, non-mistake-making being. They used the word angel. Here is one fanciful story from Midrash on this very topic. It is the eve of God's giving the Torah on Mount Sinai to Moses, and the angels, creatures who are said to be halfway between God and human, protest the idea that human beings are worthy of receiving the Torah. Human beings are flawed and weak, the angels assert. Isn't the Torah really a much better match for perfect beings like us? God is silent. As Moses arrives at the top of Mount Sinai to receive the Torah, God asks Moses to respond to the angel's question. Moses pauses for a moment, unsure of what to say. He sees the angel's point. A beautiful holy work such as Torah, maybe it is better in the hands of, or the wings of, angels than in the possession of the messy beings that are people. God, Moses asks, what is written in the Torah that you are giving me? God replies, I am the eternal your God who brought you out of Egypt. Moses smiles. Angels, did you descend to Egypt? Were you enslaved to Pharaoh? Only people understand what it means to be enslaved, to experience the power of redemption, to taste freedom for the first time. We know what it is to be a stranger, so we are able to come to love the stranger. What else is written in the Torah? Asks Moses. Remember the Sabbath day and sanctify it. Moses says, angels, do you perform labor that requires you to rest? Do you understand what it's like to need to produce and be at the beck and call of others, sacrificing your own needs all week long? How could you know the peace that comes when allowing oneself a day to disconnect, to spend time with those you love, to replenish your soul? Humans do. One by one, Moses learns of all the mitzvahs: to honor one's parents, to not murder, to not commit adultery, to not steal, to not be jealous or given to destructive inclinations. The angels can't relate to a single one, but humans can, because of the existential challenges we face through daily life in a real world, and our natural desire to develop meaningful relationships as imperfect beings living in imperfect circumstances. It becomes clear to the angels, to Moses, to God, that Torah is a book of wisdom that can only be useful to beings who learn and grow through making mistakes, through hard-won life experience, and who possess inner souls that yearn to connect with something greater. The human experience may make us emotional, somewhat unreliable and inconsistent, self-absorbed, and at times insensitive and hurtful. And also, the human experience gives us depth, empathy, texture, vulnerability, a desire to connect and learn and grow. The most perfect angel or artificial intelligence program can seem appealing for those times when we just need a little break from people. And yet, for our characters to really develop, for our minds to grow, for each of us to really evolve into our best selves, we need other people. Imperfect, annoying people who will question our assumptions, who will challenge our thoughts, hopefully with respect, who will value us for the whole crazy package that each of us is. May we work to cherish our human relationships, whether they are friendships, marriages, family connections, business partners and associates, or just quick interactions with a stranger in a store or on the street. We need these relationships, and we always will.